Namaskar to all. A very warm good afternoon to everyone who is joining us from either online or offline and from India and abroad. My sincere namaskar to all of you. Please join our social media pages immediately as our session is going to begin now. First of all, on behalf of Archaeological Survey of India, Bangalore Circle and Heritage Society-Karnataka Circle, together in collaboration, uh, uh, we are having our second episode of the ongoing lecture series, which is a year-long lecture series which began on the previous lecture day on the occasion of National Unity Day. It is my very privilege and honor to welcome our distinguished speakers and panelists for today's session, which is going to be our second episode in the ongoing lecture series. And this lecture series aims to explore the splendid heritage of Karnataka. Um, Friends and colleagues who are joining us online, this lecture forms a part of the year-long academic lecture series, which has been an initiative of both the Archaeological Survey of India and Heritage Society. The vision behind this initiative is not merely to showcase the monuments that are located in the Karnataka, but also to foreground Karnataka as a living cultural landscape, where archaeology, art history, inscriptions, sacred text, ritual traditions, and social memories intersect. So there will be a range of distinguished speakers who will be invited throughout the year, and I would request everyone to be with us over. So in the second episode of this ongoing lecture series, we have the theme of our lecture for the today's talk is on Begur temple and their scriptural bearings. And for this lecture, we are very privileged and honored to be blessed with the distinguished presence of Dr. Manoj Gundanna sir, who is currently a research associate and an archaeologist by profession. He has earned his MA and PhD degree in ancient history and archaeology from Manasa Gangotri, University of Mysore. Along with Dr. Manoj Gundanna sir, we are also blessed to have an opportunity with us to have a presence of Dr. C.V. Patil sir, who is former superintending archaeologist in Archaeological Survey of India. We are also joined by Dr. Veer Raghavan sir, who is joining us from Archaeological Survey of India, Bangalore Circle. He is assistant superintending archaeologist in the Bangalore Circle. Due to some certain limitations and due to busy schedule of Dr. Sujeet Nayan sir, he may not be able to join us now, but he will join us during the lecture series, during the lecture sometime in the between. So before we begin our lecture, let me very briefly introduce our distinguished speaker for the today's session. Our distinguished speaker, Dr. Manoj Gundanna ji, is an archaeologist by profession. He earned his MA and PhD degrees in ancient history and archaeology from Manasa Gangotri, University of Mysore. Dr. Manoj is also a resource person with the Archaeological Survey of India. He wrote his doctoral thesis on the title Temples of Salem region, and he was awarded PhD in 2009. Dr. Manoj Gundanna sir is having a wide spectrum of multidisciplinary research on variety of issues, including he has devoted his study on ancient Dravidian temples, architecture, on traditional agamas, on Vastu Granthas, and variety of different Sanskrit texts. He has also presented more than 100 research papers in English and Kannada. And he has academically associated with various universities, including Chanakya University, Amrita Vishwavidyalaya, which is one of the best universities in India, and several other universities where he has delivered online lectures on agamas and he has also published a large number of books. His book Devalaya Vastu Vigyana in Kannada is a reference book on Dravidian temple architecture for postgraduate students in history and archaeology. He has immensely contributed in this particular field, and we are very blessed that today we are having his presence with us, and he will be giving enlightening us on the Begur temples and their scriptural bearings. Along with us, we are also blessed to have with us C.V. Patil sir, who has joined us as chairperson for our today's session. Professor Dr. C.V. Patil, sir, holds first-class masters in ancient Indian history and epigraphy and a postgraduate diploma in archaeology. He initially joined the ASI in 1979, and then in various capacities he has offered his services to Archaeological Survey of India over a very long period of time, and then he retired from the Bangalore Circle as former Superintending Archaeologist in 2009. And so this is a great opportunity that we are having his auspicious presence with us in our today's session. We will move forward in our today's lecture. We are also along with first we will be having our welcome address from Veer Raghavan sir, and the vote of thanks will be delivered by Dr. Anantashutosh Dwivedi sir, who is the Director General of Heritage Society. Dr. Anantashutosh Dwivedi sir needs no introduction, and he is one of the took a pioneer initiative in making this public archaeology very accessible over social media pages, and has remained very popular among the young generations. So we are also having his presence with us. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. So without making it late, let me first invite Dr. Veer Raghavan sir from Archaeological Survey of India, Bangalore Circle, for his welcome address.
Respected sirs, first of all, we are thankful to the Heritage Society for joining with us as a Bangalore Circle. On behalf of Archaeological Survey of India and Heritage Society, I welcome our today's special speaker, Dr. Manoj Gundanna sir. Sir, namaste. For his wonderful, insightful lecture on the Begur temples and their scriptural bearings. Along with us today, we have Dr. C.B. Patil sir, one of our mentor of all the Archaeological Survey of India officials. And on behalf of ASI, we welcome you, sir. Namaste. And I request you to moderate the session, sir.
I now request Dr. C.V. Patil sir to provide introductory remarks. Then we will follow up with our lecture today. So you are muted, sir. You're not audible, sir. Yes.
You are not. I am not audible.
Now you are audible, sir.
Yeah, I'm. Let me begin with my talks. That I'm thankful to this Heritage Society and the ASI-Bangalore Circle for inviting me to preside over this function. And also the speaker, Dr. Manoj Gundanna, whom I know very well since last 2 decades. He has specialized his subject on the temple architecture. One of his most temples of Salem region has been published very recently. And the topic what he has chosen today is the Begur temples and their scriptural bearings. Begur is one of the most fascinating group of temples having especially the Ganga monuments. And its architectural and sculptural bearings have attracted at least more than a century or so. Ever since Dickinson photographed the inscriptions and the sculptural things, Begur has been on and off on the writings from various scholars, both in Kannada and English. And the history, as well as the inscriptions, several inscriptions have been published in the Epigraphia-Karnataka by Lewis Ruiz. And then in the recent years, the several scholars have taken interest on this subject and have written vigorously in art and architecture. And Dr. Aruni, while discussing the Bangalore tradition, Parampare, it is in Kannada, he has also discussed in brief about the Begur. And Manoj Gundanna himself has written several articles on the Begur sculptures. And having mastered his subject on the temple architecture and sculptures, I'm sure he will give and enlighten us more about what the people generally know. The initiation by this Bihar Heritage Society to reach the archaeology to the common man is really commendable. In that series, we are having today's lecture, a no less authority, Dr. Manoj Gundanna, to speak on the Begur temples. So I welcome and hand over the mic to Mr. Gundanna to begin his lecture on the Begur temples and their scriptural bearings. What it is today's main presentation, which is being listened and audioed by millions of art historians and archaeologists and historians. I welcome Dr. Manoj, please.
Namaskaram to everybody. Hope I am audible and clear. Okay, it is a very pleasurable thing to address the students of archaeology, students and people who are interested in archaeology, and especially it's really a great pleasure to have Patil sir in the audience because he has been a great mentor to me in my endeavor of these research and other publications, and he has always encouraged me. So therefore, this is also a very pleasurable thing. I will very shortly introduce Begur as it was, then a little introduction into Ganga architecture, and then I will enter into the subject of how this architecture can be gleaned to the canonical prescriptions which are found in our Vastu Shastra Granthas. So, Begur, when I first visited in 1998, was actually an agriculture village in the outskirts of Bangalore. Today, at least personally, I feel it's unfortunate that it has lost its original form in the name of urbanization, and the temple has been entirely encompassed by some new constructions and buildings in and around. So therefore, when I visited Begur for the first time, we could have the view of the temple almost from a distance of half a kilometer. So that was the view, completely surrounded by greenery, and there would be a lake in front of the temple, and all these things were very much, the ambience was very, very archaic, and the temples also had their original glory. But today we see, there are disproportionate structures built, even attached to the temple as well as surrounding the temple. However, we have to accept it as it is the norm of the day. So these Begur temples, they are actually a group of 5 temples, and they are almost contemporary in their construction. Maybe a difference of few decades may be observed, but otherwise they are very contemporary. So coming to the builders of the Begur temple, the Nageshwara temple was built by Ganga, and there is the Ganga period, and there is a inscription which talks about the foundation of the temple, and Nagattara was the person behind the construction of the temple, and that is why it is named as Nageshwara. And there is a Choleshwara temple adjacent to it, which almost seems to be like a twin temple. And Choleshwara temple must have been built a few decades after the construction of the Nageshwara temple, while the Cholas had invaded the southern part of modern Karnataka. And the name is Choleshwara, but if you see the architecture, it resembles the Nageshwara temple very much. And other thing which you have to understand here is, though the patrons were Cholas, or the governors of Cholas were here, the sculptors who would have worked on the temple must have been the local sculptors who were very much acquainted with the Ganga style of architecture. And apart from these 2 temples, the other 3 temples, that is Nagareshwara, Kalikamateshwara, which is pronounced as Kali Kamateshwara in these days, and there is one Ramalingeshwara. All these temples have lost their original form. Kalikamateshwara temple is a Ekatala Vimana temple which is very small. But Nagareshwara temple, except for its Mukhamantapa and the Adhisthana, the rest of the outer wall of the Vimana is totally disappeared. It's the same with Ramalingeshwara temple also, that the entire structure is lost. So there are some modern walls built for the temple. So here we will mainly concentrate upon the Nageshwara and Choleshwara temples. Now, the Ganga temples usually, it is something very commendable that though Gangas and Nalambas were contemporaries, they were actually vassal rulers. Their rule, the independent rule probably would have been for a very insignificant period. But still, they managed to bring out a style of their own which is identified with their dynasty. And this style, that doesn't mean that they completely innovated some style or something, but this was actually, the structures were built based on the Vastushastra Granthas like Mayamata, Kashyap Shilpa, and there are various other agamas also like Kamika Agama and all those things. To understand the evidences for what the definitions we get in Mayamata, studying Ganga temples, some Chola temples, Badami Chalukyan temples, they help us a lot. Especially when it comes to the Ganga temples and the Chola temples, we can rely upon them as structural evidences for Mayamata itself. So, here we see that to briefly understand about the Vastu Shastra Granthas, when we observe the structures of Badami Chalukyas or slightly earlier structures, we can know that they surely followed some text in their construction, because though we have, at least in our archaeological background, there have been many scholars who have studied temple architecture, the entire Indian architecture. Then they divide it into, like various styles based on dynasties, geographically, and all those things. The divisions are made. But one limitation which I have always observed in the early archaeological scholars or the the Western scholars who have studied is, they limited themselves for the engineering technology or the construction methodology of those temples, than concentrating on the indigenous sources which mention about how a temple is built, what are its adjuncts. So how do you identify a architectural adjunct of a temple? So they have names. So how did they get these names? All these things were probably not taken into consideration. So on this basis, what happens if we read works of Percy Brown or Henry Cousins or any such people who have contributed? Of course, their contribution is really very much unparalleled when we think about their conjectural restorations, plans, and other things. But what happens when they identify the organs of the temple? It is more like they try to identify this with the Greco-Roman architecture, like calling the Kumuda as a Taurus molding, or calling some pillar with its decorations as a Ali pillar or something. There is some the clarity is not much when they are describing the temples. But we observe that by the late 90s, there were some Indian scholars who started identifying these temples with our scriptures. So when this started, we now can have an idea of what was the concept of building temple, what are the adjuncts called, why are they called so. All these things could be very much understood. So during my doctoral research, this was one of the core concepts where I could collect information from Vastu Granthas and Agamas and try to identify them with the structural evidences of various temples. So at that time it was restricted to Salem region, but now as a researcher and freelancing, I have extended it to other jurisdictions also. Like that, now we find that Begur temples can be studied based on the Vastu Shastra Granthas in a very, very perfect manner. And especially I was mentioning, while you are studying the Chola temples and the Ganga temples, we feel that they are actually the examples or structural evidences for the Grantha Mayamata. So, Mayamata is actually one of the earliest Granthas which we find of Vastu Granthas, which is in its complete form. There have been a mention of earlier scholars, even by Mayamuni in his text. He also talks about earlier scholars who have recommended some suggestions. But in a complete form, that is all the 36 chapters of the Mayamata is available. And there are some scholars who are of the opinion that Mayamata belonged to 13th century. But on observing the temple, construction of the temples and the evidences we get, my personal opinion is that Mayamata must have been a work which was already composed and popular by the 7th and 8th centuries itself. Because when you observe Badami Chalukya rock-cut sanctuaries as well as the structural temple, we see that though there is experimentation, the experimentation is only with the medium of construction, that is the stone. But otherwise, the decoration part, the pillar varieties, all these things, they seem to be very much influenced by some text, and they are also inspired later Vastu Shastra Granthkartas. Because when another popular text which is spoken very much about is Manasara. Manasara is a very recent text, datable to 16th century, and the Kartar, that is the composer of Manasara himself, says that he has gone through more than 300 texts of Vastu Shastra and then compiled Manasara. So this itself shows that as it was a practice in all the Shastras of India, there was always updating of the existing texts. They included many new innovations. They also have excluded something which is outdated. So therefore always there has been a continuous composition of Vastu Shastra Granthas from the earliest day. But as of now, the earliest the text which talks about temple architecture is Kashyapa Jnanakanda from Vaikhana Sagama, which is partly available. But one of the oldest texts which is completely available, it's in full form, is Mayamata, and Mayamata is very clear in its definitions when compared to other texts. And we also see that texts like Ishan Ishvagurudeva Paddhati and Manasara and other texts, Shilparatna of Sri Kumara, they also refer Maya and they quote Maya. So actually I can compare Mayamuni stands something like Manu in the Smritikaras, because Manusmriti is the oldest, and we see that all the later Smritikaras have, they quote Manu and they begin with Manu. Like that we see that Mayamuni has commanded a lot of respect among the later Vastu Shastra Granthakaras, and with that his definitions are also very clear when we try to understand the structure of the temple. Now let us enter into the subject, that is the Begur temples and their scriptural bearings. As I mentioned earlier, the two temples, that is Nageshwara and Choleshwara, are in their complete form. Can you go to the next slide or should I do it myself?
You can click on the next button, sir.
Where is
Hello,
the
sir.
next? No, where is the next button?
At the bottom, sir, on the slides. On the slides, sir. You have shared the PowerPoint button. You can click next. You can click the arrow sign, next arrow.
Okay, I think I will. No, there is something popping back up. I don't know if I should.
Sir, you please take the cursor and press, sir. Next slide. Automatically it will come.
No, I'm not able to do that.
Otherwise, you just press the down button, sir. Arrow button, down button. Down arrow button.
No, in the laptop I'm doing it, but I'm not able to go to the next slide. Now is it?
Yeah, now it's available. Yeah, now it's coming, sir.
I think I should go to the PPT directly. Okay. So I should go to the PPT and then change probably than in the screen, right? Now it's visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we see that these two temples, that is this one, the movement of my arrow is visible, right? So this is Nageshwara temple and this is the Choleshwara temple. These are completely in their original form. So now, how do we study the architecture of temple? Usually it is based on two principles. One is the elevation and the second one is the ground plan. So in the Shastra Granthas, the Ravanagama gives the definition of what a Vimana is. Vimana means that structure which has adjunct from Upana to Stupi. That part of the temple which has all the 6 components from Upana up to the Stupi is called as a Vimana. So Upana the Stupi Paryantam Vimanam is the definition we get in Ravanagama. Therefore, the outer part of the Garbhagriha only will have all the 6 adjuncts and they are addressed as the Shatvargas of the temple. Now, to study the temple in the elevation, we will have to know about the Shatvargas of the temple, and all these adjuncts are usually defined, described and studied from bottom to the topmost. So these are the 2 temples. Now these are the plans of the temples. Hope this slide is moving, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
So here on the plan, usually a temple plan is also considered as the Vastu Purusha in his lying down, and the elevation is considered as the Prasada Purusha. But I will not go into the details now because we will concentrate more on the Begur temple. Here on plan we see that the temple possesses, the Nageshwara and Choleshwara temples, they possess actually a Garbhagriha, an Antarala, a Guda Mantapa and a oblong Mukhamantapa. The Choleshwara temple possesses a Garbhagriha, an Ardhamantapa, a Guda Mantapa and a Mukhamantapa. Now, these 2 independent structures have been brought into contact through other later constructions. There is a wall built between these 2 temples on the inner part, and they have been made into one common hall. But this is the original plan. Here we have to understand one thing. That is, the Nageshwara temple is a Ganga, the temple patronized by the Gangas. That is why on plan we find what is called as Antarala. This Antarala many times is commonly identified as Shukanasa or Shukanasi. But the term which we come across in the text or in the inscriptions is actually Antarala. And the Guda Mantapa is also sometimes just identified as Navaranga, but Guda Mantapa is the term which is found in our texts as well as inscriptions. Because Mantapa means a pavilion, Guda means one which is closed on all sides. But see, Antarala is a vestibule which connects the Guda Mantapa to the Garbhagriha, and that is an intermediate space, and that is why it's called as Antarala, meaning an inner chamber. But in Choleshwara temple, as the patrons were Cholas, they have introduced their architectural adjunct, that is an Ardhamantapa. Ardhamantapa means The rear side will possess a wall, but the front portion will have only 2 pillars. So it is a narrow passage which connects the Goda Mandapa to the Garbhagriha. So this is the plan of Chodeshwara and Nageshwara. Further, there we can see the plans of Nagareshwara and other temples which are almost identical. So these are the other 2 temples which I was mentioning. This is the Nagareshwara temple and this is the Kalikavateshwara temple. We see that only the Adhisthana part and the Mukhamantapa is original Ganga, while the entire wall and other things are all recent constructions after the destruction of the temple. Now this is Kalikavateshwara, which is fairly original. It is forum. This falls under what we call as the Ekatala Vimana class. I will explain about it in the further lecture. Now the Shadvargas of a temple are Adhisthana, that is the plinth, Bitti or Kudya, which is the wall proper, Prastara, which is the entablature, then we have Griva, Shikara and Stupi. Now we shall study the Begur temple and their adjuncts based on texts like Mayamata. Basically, I will be following Mayamata, and incidentally, that's why we use the common term as the texts or the Shastra Granthas. I would also be referring to Kashyapa Shilpa Shastra or something whenever it is necessary. So, the Shastra Granthas usually tell that there are 2 major varieties of Adhishtanas, that is Padabandha Adhisthana and Pratibandha Adhisthana. Kashyapa Shilpa Shastra clearly mentions that these are the 2 main Adhishtanas, and all the other Adhishtanas are its branch. They are the sub-varieties of either Padabandha or the Pratibandha based on the decorations done on them. Now, Padabandha, first Adhisthana, the term Adhisthana means that adjuncts which supports a structure that allows something to stand upon it. So that is the meaning of the term Adhisthana. And in our the temple construction in the Indian context, it is always noted that in those days they never dug deep into the earth when they were putting the foundation pit. Only the strength was given above the ground level. That is this. We see the surrounding courtyard here, and above the courtyard we are seeing the construction of the Adhisthana, and this is the one which gives the main strength to the entire structure. So Adhisthana usually will have upangas like Upana, this is the Jagati, then we have Kumuda, Griva or Gara and Mahapatti. These are the commonly found angas of the Adhisthana. But what happens, based on the differentiation in the decorations of these angas, the names of these Adhishtanas also change. And Padabandha Adhisthana is the most popular, simplest form, and it is used for all the structures. So that is why the texts have a definition saying that Padabandham Adhishthanam Sarva Jatyarhakam Bhavet, meaning that the Padabandha Adhisthana can be implemented into any structure, may it be a temple, a mantapa, or a palace, or a residential house. However, Padabandha Adhisthana is a popular variety and a common variety. We find that the Chola Dravida style or the Tamil Dravida style have mainly used the Padabandha Adhisthana, and the important adjunct of this Adhisthana, where they usually have their decorations or whatever, is the Mahapatti. If this Mahapatti is replaced, it becomes the next variety of Adhisthana, that is the Kapautabandha Adhisthana. Now this is the Nageshwara Adhisthana of the Nageshwara temple. This is the Kapautabandha Adhisthana. Here we can see that all the adjuncts are same. The Adhisthana has a Jagati here. Of course, the Upana has been submerged in the modern pavement. The courtyard has been cemented. In this process, the Upana has been submerged. The Adhisthana from Jagati is visible. Then we have Tripatta Kumuda, above which we have a gala, and above the gala we have a kapota. Kapota is actually a dripstone, which it is called kapota because it resembles a pigeon's head in its shape. And then we have the vajana, another gala and vajana above the adhisthana. This kapota bandha adhisthana is mentioned as a separate variety in Mayamata, while Kashyapa Shastra and other granthas mention it as a variety of Padabandha Adhisthana itself. But this is an example of Kapotabandha Adhisthana. This is the next variety of Adhisthana which we find in the Begur temple. This is the Adhisthana of Choleshwara temple, which is Pratikrama. Now, we see that this Adhisthana, this also has been submerged a lot because the Jagati and Upayana part have been completely, they have gone below the ground level. Now it is visible from the Kumuda level. Now, Kumuda is this molding, and in the previous slide, we saw that this is a three-faceted Kumuda. So, even in the Padabandha Adhisthana, it's a three-faceted Kumuda. Now, Shastra Granthas mention 4 varieties of Kumuda, that is a Tripatta Kumuda, a Dharavrita Kumuda, a Vrutta Kumuda, and Katakavrita Kumuda. Now, this is an example of Tripatta Kumuda, while this is an example of Vrutta Kumuda. Now, this Vrutta Kumuda is very heavy, and we see that this is called as the Pratibha part of the Adhisthana. See, almost half of the Adhisthana is submerged in the courtyard, only the upper half is visible. So, this Prati part, we can see that it is decorated with a series of mythical birds, or it is something like a Piscean animal, which is, like a Vyali or something. This, when it is arranged in frequent intervals, it becomes krama. So that is why if the prati has a decoration of the series of these Vyalis, then it becomes pratikrama adhisthana. So these 3 varieties of adhisthana are visible in the Begur temple complex. Now this is the first part of the Shadvarga, the lowermost part of the Shadvarga, which is the adhisthana. Next we can learn about the Bitti. Now, Bitti is the wall proper. The term Bitti and Kudya both are synonymously used in the texts. But the term Bitti actually means, the term Bitti is derived from the root Bid, which means to say that the inner quarters are separated from the outer courtyard. So therefore, can you please permit me for just a minute? Sorry, I apologize, I had to go. So, Bitti, the term means that the wall which separates the inner quarters from the outer courtyard. Now, the texts also mention about the construction of Bitti, and it also talks about the decorations that can be done on a Bitti. So, the most common decoration which is found on the Bitti is called as the Bittipada or the pilasters. Here we can see that these are all the pilasters which are used to break the monotony of the wall. Probably when the entire construction was done in wood, in the wooden constructions, or maybe mortar and brick, the strength was given with stone or some intermediate pillars, which later on became decorative and they took the form of a pilaster, and it is called as Bittipada. The Shastrantas usually tell that whatever the description about the angas means the parts of the pillar is mentioned, the pillar proper of the structure is mentioned, that has to be applied even for the pilasters or the Bittipadas. So here we find that this Bittipada is square in its shape, therefore it is called as a Brahmakanta Bittipada. About the nomenclature we shall understand while we are discussing about the pillars of the temple. Apart from this Bittipada, the other decorations which you find, here we can see that there are 3 Toranas and Jalavatayana. Jalavatayana is a window which is both utilitarian as well as decorative. Vatayana itself means a window, that which allows light and air into the inner quarters of the structure, and Jala means actually perforations. So this is Jalavatayana, and many times the Gangas and more than Gangas, the Nolambas have excelled in creating a range of Jalavatayanas with each piece as a masterpiece by itself. And Gangas have also created some good Jalavatayanas, and this is Jalavatayana. In the later days in the temples we find other decorations on the wall like the sculptures and other things, but in the Ganga period the sculptures on the outer wall is almost absent. We don't find the sculptural decoration on the outer walls of the temple. So these are the 3 major decorations, that is the Bittipada, Torana and Jalavatayanas, which we frequently see in the Ganga temples. So this is the Torana. So Torana is usually that decoration where it will have 2 split pilasters, and these split pilasters are called as Nakulapadas. See, we can see that it is square in shape, but that's why this part of the pada is similar. But when we observe these 2 portions, we can see that they are split, they are not complete. So therefore, it's on the Nakulapada or the split pilasters, a canopy of floral decorations which is coming out of the Makara mouth is seen. So therefore, this is a Makara Torana. Now Torana is actually a decoration on the wall which will have 2 pillars with a canopy about it. If it has Vastu Anga for its canopy, then it can be identified as a Shala Torana, Kuta Torana, or Panja Torana, like that, depending on the decoration. But when it has this thing, Makaras with floral decorations, it is called as a Makara Torana. And texts actually mention about the Makara Torana, and it is also called as Pushpa Torana, where we have the floral decoration. So we can see the entire canopy with this decoration. Next, these are the varieties of Jalavatayanas found in the Begur temples. Now, the Shastra Granthas also mention a huge variety of these Jalavatayanas. Some Jalavatayanas are named after the perforations they possess, like this, like this. Based on the shape of the perforations, some names are given to the Jalavatayanas. To some Jalavatayanas, based on the decorations of the Jalavatayana, the names are given. But what we find in structural evidence is that, though these varieties are found in the temple, many times the sculptors have taken a lot of liberty in producing very good Jalavatayanas. So what happens, especially in the Nolamba architecture, likewise in Ganga also, we see some sculptures of the deities carved, and the intermediate space of the organs or the weapons, they are made into perforations so that it serves their purpose. So like this, the entire the classification is, some Jalavatayanas get their name based on the decoration, some Jalavatayanas get their name based on the perforations. Now this is the Jalavatayana which is called as Valli Mandala Jalavatayana, because we can see encircling creepers carved here, and these perforations allow the light and air into the inner quarters of the temple. But whereas here the perforation is square in shape, so that is why it is called as Turyashra. Turya means 4, Ashra means angles. So therefore it is a square, this thing. So this is a Turyashra Jalavatayana, and this is a Gavaksha Jalavatayana, because the shape of the perforation here is supposed to resemble the eye of the cow. Gavaksha means the cow's eye. So this is a Gavaksha. Usually what happens, the Jalavatayanas are colloquially addressed as Gavakshas itself. In our ancient literature or in our usage of the common people in the olden days, we find this term Gavaksha used frequently to refer to the ventilators or the windows. Now, while observing the bitti or the wall, we also need to have an introduction towards the contour of the plan. Now, in the second picture, when we saw the contour of the plan of the temples, we see that the outer contour of the Garbhagriha will have some projections and recessions in the plan. The projections are mainly given to give more strength to the wall, because as we know, when they started building structures in stone, it was very much, they had to be very careful, because in the ancient building technology, they never used any medium of adhesive to bind two blocks of stone together. It was actually wrought, well made, designed, and all this done, and it was placed one above the other based on the gravitational calculation. And even today we find that many temples stand that way. So as this was the reason, they needed more strength, because even if the superstructure or the prasada of the temple was of stone, the weight would naturally be burdening to the lower structure. So as a precautionary measure, they had some buttressing components built to the proper, and this actually had some projections in the contour of the plan. So they are called as the Anga Vibhaktis of the Vinyasa Sutra. Bhadra is the a buttressing projection which is rectangular in its shape. So this is the Bhadra. And Karnas are the square shaped projections which are found on the corners of the building, corners of the Vinyasa Sutra. So Karna actually means ear. Here we see that if you see the plan, it would be like the ear of a lion or tiger, where it is found on the either sides. So that is why it is called as a Karna. But in between this Bhadra and Karna, if there is some other projection built, based on the shape, it gets the name as either Pratikarna or Pratibhadra. Now there are some huge Chola temples where even the intermediate projections have rectangular plan. So therefore they will be called as Pratibhadras. But in smaller, humbler temples, we can see that the plan of this, projection here is again square. So it is resembling a Karna, therefore it gets the name Pratikarna. So all these Vinyasa Sutras are found in the Begur temple, and the wall which is in the recession is called as the Salilantara, meaning that actually even today I think among the architects and the civil engineering, there is a term something like water, something related with water measurements. So Salilantara means that which is separated through water markings. So that is how it gets its name. So this is the Salilantara, which is the wall between the main wall between the projections Karna, Bhadra and Pratikarna. So all these Sangha Vibhaktis are discernible in the Begur temple. Now coming to the next of the Shadvarga, which is the Prastara. Prastara is the entablature, which is actually the covering roof of the structure, of the entire structure. That is why it is called as Prachadana also. Prastara will always have 4 components. The lowest one is Uttara. Above the Uttara, we find a semicircular projection, which is called as the Vallabhi. And above the Vallabhi, we find the Kapota or the dripstone. And above that is the Vajana. Now, Uttara and Vajana, by the time the stone was adopted for construction, became decorative, while the Vallabhi and Kapota were both decorative as well as utilitarian. Kapota is that part which is very important. It is the dipstone which doesn't allow rainwater or any other water to enter into the wall of the temple. See, when the wall was built in the ancient temples, it was built in 3 layers. One would be the outer layer, one would be the inner layer. In between these 2 layers, it would be filled with a lot of debris. So therefore, when they used to cover these both wall with the slabs which form the Uttara. Above that, they placed the Vallabhi. So Vallabhi was the main stone slabs which covered, which put these 2 walls together. It covered these 2 walls together. And so, as the stone slabs are arranged one next to the other, they had to take precaution of not allowing the rainwater to enter in between, so that the debris, it may allow some vegetation to grow, and all those such things may happen. So that is why Kapota is a very important anga which prevents rainwater from entering. And this is the Vajana. Vajana is actually called as the Prachadanasya Asya in the Vastu Shastra Granthas, meaning the outer face of the Prachadana or the roof. Now here we can see that all these angas are mentioned. Sorry. All these angas which are mentioned in the Shastra Granthas, their decoration is also mentioned. Now this is a decoration of Bhutamala and the Vallabhi. So the texts say that you can decorate the Uttara and Vallabhi with what is called as Hari, Kari, Makarai, Natakai, Vichitritam. And Uttara also they say Khandottara, Patrottara and Rupottara. Rupottara means Uttara which has sculptures, Patrottara means Uttara which has the decoration of petals, and Khandottara is just a plain Uttara. Now this is a plain Khandottara, above which we find the Vallabhi with Bhutamala, Kapota. The decoration on Kapota usually will be of Nasi. Nasi is a projecting decorative motif which is found in the various parts of the temple. When it is small in its proportion, it is called as Alpanasi. Otherwise, this is just a Nasi. And when it becomes huge in its form, it is called as a Mahanasi. And all these are separately referred to in the texts. And their purpose also is sometimes mentioned. So we will know that when we are talking about the Shikara and Prasada. So this is about the Prastara of the temple as mentioned based on the Mayamata. Now, about the Prastara, usually if it is just a Ekatala Vimana means a temple with 1 story. So a single story temple will have nothing above the Prastara. It will just have a Vedi, Griva and Shikara. But if they plan to increase the height of the Prasada, Prasada is actually the superstructure. Now what happens even among the scholarly groups, many times Shikara is the term used for Prasada, the superstructure of the temple, and sometimes they call it as Vimana Gopuram and other things. All these are all very colloquial terms, but in the Shastra Granthas, the term is used as Prasada, and there are separate chapters like Prasada Lakshanam given for the description of these prasadas. So if the sculptor intends or the patron intends to have taller prasadas to suit the proportion of the structure, then it will increase like Dvitala, Tritala, Chatushtala, Panchatala, and it can go up to 12 talas as far as the texts are concerned. So how to differentiate these talas? To differentiate the talas and also to give a decorative look to it, each tala will possess what is called as a hara. Hara is nothing but a parapet. And why is it called a hara? Because usually any hara or any thala, if you go to the regular Dravida temples, we can observe that they possess three architectural adjuncts. One is the kuta, which is placed on the corners, in the corners above the karnas, if it has a karna. Otherwise, it will be just placed in the corners. This is a kuta which is square on plan. Then we have what is called as shala, which will be in the middle of the hara, and it will be rectangular and plan. And it will usually come above the bhadra, if the temple possesses a bhadra. That is why we hear the terms like karnakuta and bhadrashala when we are reading about structures or the description of structures. Then comes the anga, which is called as panjara. Panjara will have an apsidal plan. So the front will possess a mahanasi. Now I was telling about nasis. If the nasi dominates the entire adjunct, then it is called as a mahanasi, and the facade of the panjara will have what is called as a mahanasi. So this is a panjara, and hara will be a series of kuta, shala and panjara. Now this hara, there are two varieties of haras in the structure. One variety is called as the anarpita hara, where we see that the hara of one thala is detached from the wall of the second thala. Now Begur temple possesses anarpita hara. This anarpita hara can be seen in structures of Chavandrai Basadi in Shravanabedagola, Virupaksha, Sangameshwara and Mallikarjuna temples of Pattadakal. The earlier temples used to have this anarpita hara, because when you are building anarpita hara, it gives space to extend the wall below that hara. So therefore anarpita hara was found. But arpita hara is the kind where we find that the adjuncts of the hara, that is kuta, shala and panjara, are built attached to the wall or the bitti of the second thala. Now even in Ganga temples, where you have the prasada built of brick and mortar, like that in Narasamangala we have this Ramalingeshwara temple, we can quote it as an example. It has a brick and mortar Vima prasada. There we see that it is an arpita hara, where we find that the adjuncts hara, that is shala, kuta and panchara, are built attached to the wall of the the succeeding thala. So this is an anarpita hara, example of anarpita hara we see in the Begur temple. So talking about the decorations on the parapet wall, that is the hara, the Shastrantas mention one decoration which is called as Vritta Sputita. Now sputa means actually cutting, that which is cut into two halves. So Vritta Sputita means these are identical two cut halves of a circular adjunct, that is the Vritta Sputita. Now the appearance of Vritta Sputita is very much discernible in the structures of Pallavas, Badami Chalukyas, the earlier Ashtrakutas and Gangas, Nolambas. But gradually we see that this continues during the Vijayanagara period, but it is built in brick and mortar, and by the 17th, 18th centuries, the form completely changes from Vritta either to square or some other shape, depending on the sculptor's idea of decorating it. So this is a typical example of Vritta Sputita which we see in the Begur temples. Now coming to the upper three adjuncts. Now the lower three adjuncts are of the Shadvargas. We studied Adhisthana, Bitti and Prastara. Above the Prastara we don't get these three immediately until and unless it is a Ekatala Vimana. See, this is Griva. Griva means it is actually a recessed adjunct. That is why it is called as Griva. Griva, it resembles a neck. If you consider a human face, the neck is a bit receding. Therefore, this is called as a Griva. Then this is the Shikhara, meaning the pinnacle. Above that is what is called as the Stupi or the Kalasha. We find that all the Shatgardas were designed out of stone. And these are all very much near to the textual descriptions also. Now, this is actually a square shikara. It is called as Brahmachanda shikara. And you have what is called as Padmashila. I think the petals are visible. So this is a Padmashila. The text mentioned that above the shikara we should have a Padmashila upon which the stupi is placed. Many times we see stone stupi, but in later days this was replaced by metal, either of bronze, brass. If it was really this thing, they mentioned it is a Swarna Kalasha, but invariably some amount of gold must have been added to the metal. So the stupi is also stone, original stone stupi. So this shows that all the Shadvargas mentioned in texts are, the structural evidence is found in the Begur temples. Now, this Griva Shikara stupi is usually placed upon what is called as a Vedi or a platform. If the sculptor plans, the Stapati plans to increase the height of the prasada, then the hara and talas are included between the prastara and this Vedi. So therefore, the upper three angas of the Shadvarga and the lower angas are sometimes separated by what we call as the prasada and its talas. Now, the griva of the shikara can possess decorations of griva devatas. Now here we can see that this is the griva devata of Nageshwara temple. Now, usually what happens, by the mention of the term Naga, everybody will think it is serpent. But in Sanskrit, even elephant is referred to as Naga. Therefore, you can see that the Griva Devata, the main deity, is shown as mounting on an elephant. I think, I don't know if this picture is really clear. We can see the ears of the elephant here, the trunk, the face. So, the Shiva is seated on an elephant. So, Nageshwara means it is something like winning over the elephant. That is that sculpture we see in the Griva Devatas. So text mention about having Devata sculptures in the Griva. And even in that, there are some directions given. If it is on the southern side, we should have the sculpture of Dakshinamurti. Now this is a Dakshinamurti on the southern Griva. This sculpture is also found on the southern wall of Chola temples. So on the western side, if the temple is facing east, then it will be of Mahavishnu, and the northern side will possess the sculpture of Brahma. So these series can be seen in the Nageshwara temple and Choleshwara temple of Begur. So till the, as I said, till the stupi, the entire structure is of stone, original structure. Therefore, all these things are based on the textual prescription. So this is about the Griva Devatas. Now coming to the varieties of prasadas. Actually, as I said, the Vastu Shastra Granthas have separate chapters for all the adjuncts, like we will have Adhisthana Lakshanam, Bitti Lakshanam, Stamba Lakshanam, like this we will have separate chapters. One of the chapter is Prasada Lakshanam. Now, when it talks about Prasada, in the Ekatala Vimana class, that if the temple is of Ekatala class, the Prasadas are few in varieties, and this is called, identified as a Shrikara Prasada. So the features of the Shrikara Prasada is that it should, the shape of the Shikara should be square, that is Brahmachanda, and it should have 4 Bhadra projections, 4 Bhadra Niras in the Griva with Mahanasis on the faces of the Shikara. So that Shikara which possesses 4 Bhadra Niras, see these are the 4 projections, and above it a Mahanasi. So if this Shikara, if a Shikara possesses 4 such things on all 4 faces in the center, Bhadra Niras with Mahanasi, then it is identified as a Shrikara Prasada. So the other 2 temples, that is Nageshwara and Choleshwara, they are Dvitala Vimanas, because we see a hara, above the hara there is a Bitti with the Kapota Bitti, then you have the Vedi, above the Vedi we have Griva, Shikara and Stupi. Here the Padmashila is very clearly visible. Now, this is actually a Swastika Shikara, Swastika Prasada. Now, a Prasada which has, it should possess 4 putas, 4 shalas, and 8 pancharas intermediate, that is 2 pancharas on each side. And above the shikara must be square in shape. It should be a Brahmachanda shikara. Then it is called a Swastika Prasada. Now we see that it is the Kuta, Shala, Kuta. The Panjara is here in the lower level. It is not visible in this particular picture. Then the Shikara is square on plan. So then it is a Swastika Prasada. If the same thing, the same series, now we see here, Kuta, Panjara, Shala, Kuta, Shala, Panjara, Kuta. This sequence, if the same is followed, and the shape of the Shikara changes into circular, that is a Rudrachanda Shikara, then the Prasada is to be identified as Mandara Prasada. So we find that Mandara Prasada is that Prasada which has 4 Kutas, 4 Shalas and 8 Panjaras with a circular canopy. Now here we can also see that Vahana Devatas are placed above the Vedi. The particular Vahana of that particular deity can be placed on the Vedi according to the text. So therefore, if somebody reads Mayamata and they want to have a structural evidence, they can go to the Begur temple. So, coming to the Stambhalakshana part of the texts. So, the text mentioned various kinds of stambhas, pillars, again based on the shape of their shafts. Sometimes the decorations also give them names. So, and some little knowledge of Sanskrit, we can actually can get the logic behind these names. Why are they named so? So there are 4 major varieties of stambhas which are frequently mentioned in all the texts, and they are the Brahmakanta, Vishnukanta and Saumyakanta pillars. Brahmakanta pillar is a pillar which has a square shaft, and the avayavas of the pillar or the subparts of the pillars also are the Pitha, the Danda or the shaft, a Kumbha, a Tadi, Mandi, Phalaka and a Potika. So here I will again repeat. This is the Danda, this is the Kumbha, this is the Tadi, we have Mandi, Phalaka, this is Veerakantha, and above that we have the Potika. These are all the avayavas or the organs of the pillar. Now, if the shaft is square, because in all the pillars, invariably the Pitha will be square. Exceptional, we have some circular Pithas also, but invariably it will be square. But the shaft will change because the lower part and the upper part, that is this Mandi Palaka, they are the strength givers of this entire pillar. Therefore, they have to be very sturdy. That's why the proportions will also be slightly wider than the pillar shaft, and it will be like it would bear the weight of the Uttara above which is placed above the pillars. Now, the shaft is square in shape, and Brahma, it's called as Brahmakanta. We always know that Brahma is associated with the numeral 4 because he has 4 faces. He is the progenitor of the 4 Vedas. So 4 and Brahma are numerically related. Then comes Vishnukanta. Vishnukanta is an octagonal shafted pillar. A pillar which has 8 faces is called as Vishnukanta because Vishnu is supposed to have Ashtayudhas. Therefore, it is called as excuse me, Vishnukanta pillar. Saumyakanta pillar is also referred to as Chandrakanta. So, Somakanta or Chandrakanta means a pillar which has 16 faces. And it is known that Chandra has 16 kalas or 16 forms from beginning from Amavasya to Paurnami. Chandra will change his, he will grow little by little, and these are called as the kalas of the Chandra. Therefore, a 16 face the shaft is called as Somakanta, Chandrakanta, Saumyakanta pillar. This is Rudrakanta. So Rudrakanta means a pillar with a cylindrical shaft. So we know that the form of Rudra popularly worshipped is Linga, and Linga will always be cylindrical, and Linga also possesses the Rudramsha which is cylindrical. That is why it is called as a Rudrakanta Stamba. And this is an example of Rudrakanta Stamba from Nageshwara temple, Begur. Now Gangas, while see like Hoysalas, they were very much they were extempers in producing the Shrikara pillars. The Shrikara pillars, they are called as the the bell-shaped pillars, the lake stone pillars, variously referred. The Hoysalas produced it in great numbers. Like that, Gangas produced great number of Purvashtra pillars. So Purvashtra means a pillar where the shaft possesses both a Ganta and a Kumbha. Now why it is called as Purva Ashra? Purva Ashra means actually an angle or a line drawn. Now the Kumbha part and the Ganta part will invariably be identical, and they will be like reflection of each other. So that is why it is usually called as the Purvashtra Stamba, and this was popularly used in almost all the Ganga temples. So we see these Purvashtra pillars also in the complex of Begur temples. This is actually from the Mukhamantapa of Nagareshwara temple. So these are some examples of the same pillars, and the text mention that the shaft of the pillar can be decorated with what is called as Muktagrasas and Malasthana. Malasthana means this upper portion where you have to decorate the pillar with what is called as Muktagrasa. So we see that this is the Malasthana and the decorations are called as the Muktagrasas. Now Potika is the corbel above the pillar, which actually bears the load of the uttara or the beams of the roof placed above the pillar in a temple. These potikas are also of four variety according to the text. They are the Adhara Potika, Vritta Potika, Taranga Potika, Chitra Potika, and we also have Pushpa Potika and Mushtibandha Potika. Now, the Mayamata clearly mentions the Potika with the decoration of Maharnava Tarangaba, meaning the waves of the ocean, but the decoration which resembles the waves of the ocean, then it should be called as a Taranga Potika. Now here, Taranga Potika was used in the earliest structures, and Western scholars tried to identify or to find out the chronology of the temple. They suggested the Potika or the corbels can be taken into consideration because the earliest temple possessed the Vevi Taranga Potika. So therefore, if it possesses a Taranga Potika, it can be dated earlier. But we can see that all kinds of Potikas are found in all periods. Some may be very popular, used in a wide range. Some might have been used in a minimal range. Then that gains popularity and just diminishes. But we can see Taranga Potika used in many Chola Bittipadas also. So we cannot say that just because of Taranga Potika, it's a very ancient temple. So these are the avayavas of the pillar mentioned in the Vastu Shastra Granthas. Then coming to the plan, usually while discussing the plan of the temple with Garbhanyasa and other Parivaras associated, Mukhachatushki or Mukhamantapa becomes a very important form of the part of the temple. So there you can see that even in Aihole, there are many temples of the earliest period where it was just a Euclidean temple possessing a Garbhagriha and a Mukhamantapa. No other adjuncts were found. So this is the Mukhamantapa of the Nagareshwara temple. Coming to the other, see, as I mentioned, there are various other Vastu Angas mentioned in the Granthas, and Gangas had excelled in making certain things. Whatever is available in Begur, I will just touch those Angas and explain. So these are actually the balustrades of the steps. So Sopanas and Hasti Hastas are mentioned in the Vastu Shastra Granthas. Hasti means elephant, Hasta means its trunk. Hasti, the elephant gets his name as Hasti because of the trunk it possesses. So this is also called as Pakshashila, meaning it is placed on the either sides of the stairs or the Sopana. So on the either sides, if you place it, it's a Pakshashila. The shape of it resembles an elephant trunk. Therefore, it is called as a Hasti Hasta. Now, the Hasta can be decorated variously. And then that in these parts, in these subjects like Hasta or on the faces of Stamba, all such parts, the Shastranantas gives a lot of freedom to the sculptors to carve according to their imagination. But in the Ganga period, we see that the Nidhi sculptures, that is the Padmanidhi and the Shankanidhi, are seen frequently sculpted on the Hasta on the either sides. The same Padmanidhi and Shankanidhi are also seen carved on the Pedyas or the lower parts of the door jambs of the temple. So in Begur we find this, the relief sculptures of Padmanidhi and Shankanidhi on the Hasta. This is the Dwarabandha. Actually, it is a highly eroded Dwarabandha, and I could not capture the pictures of other temples because they are so much covered with modern amenity like some bars and some these things are placed. But this is the only one, but it's highly eroded. But you can see that this Dwarabandha usually will have what is called as two shakhas, and the lower portion is called as the Pedya, and above one is called as the Lalata. In the Ganga temple, this is from the Choleshwara temple. Usually in the Gangamamba temples, we find that the Lalata always possessed Ashtamangalas. Ashtamangalas are 8 pious things which are identified to be very auspicious, and these auspicious signs sometimes they differ from text to text. That there many things are very identical, but few things change from one text to the other. So Gajalakshmi is shown, elephant is shown, Nandi is shown, Purna Kalasha, just a Jalagata, we have mirror, we have lamps, a Simha, all these things form the Ashtamangala. So the Lalata of the Dwarabandha of Begur temple has the Ashtamangala, and we can see the reputation of this Ashtamangala in various Ganga and Noramba temples. And these are the two images of Padmanidhi and Shankanidhi from the Pedya. Pedya means the lowest portion of the door jamb or the Dwarabandha. These are the Dwara Devatas which are found on the either sides of the Nageshwara temple. Now the Shastrananta says when you are building Dwaras or when you are installing Dwarapalakas, you must also install Dwara Devatas, and here we can see that Ganga and Yamuna are installed on the either sides of the Dwara, Pravesha Dwara of the temple. So this is the Vithana part. Vithana is the roof of the temple. Now Vithana has various decorations like Padmashila, Shilpa, Rupa and all those things are mentioned. The Gangas usually followed the Ashtavikpalakapatti decoration in their Vithana. So they usually had the 8 Dikpalakas carved, beginning from the eastern quarter, that is Indra. From Indra, we can go in the Pradakshana forum. So then in the center, they usually had the image of the presiding deity. Now, what happens in this Ashtadikpalakapatti of the Vithana, if it is a Jain temple, we can find some Yaksha sculpture here. So if it's a Vishnu temple, we can find some form of Vishnu. But as this is a Shiva temple, we can find the Uma Sahita Murti seated here. There may also be some Natesha Murtis. So this is an Attadikpalaka Vithana of the Nagareshwara temple Mukhamantapa, and we also find the same Mukhamantapas in the Nageshwara and Choleshwara temples respectively. So this is about the Begur temples and their scriptural bearings. Thank you. So hope I have not exceeded the time limit.
No, sir. No, sir. Now, now it's time for the concluding remarks. Before that, if our speaker permits, we have some questions from our participants.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I think if you need a reference book based on this Vastu Shastra explanation, you have to go to Amazon and find my thesis, because I don't know any other book which relates, like this terminology with definitions and explanation. Because the Encyclopedia of Indian Temple Architecture does have the mention of all these terms like Padabandha, Adhisthana, Bitti, all these mention of the terms you find. But if you need the definition or explanation, as far as I remember now, my thesis has that. I don't know if there are any other books which have those explanations. I am talking about this in English. If there are readers in Kannada, my book Devalaya Vastu Vijnana will furnish the information. Yes, Gajalakshmi is found in all the Chatur Samayas. Chatur Samaya are Vaishnava, Shaiva, Jaina and Bauddha. So Gajalakshmi is a symbol of prosperity. Just not Jaina, we also find Gajalakshmi in the Buddhist Toranas. Even in Sanchi, I think the Toranas possess the image of Gajalakshmi. Gajalakshmi is a very common deity found in all the Chatur Samayas. Are there comments? Are there questions? Yes, in Kalyan Cholakya temples, all of them are carved. Okay. There seem to be more of comments than
Yes.
questions.
Yes, sir. Yes. Now the time for concluding remarks. On the behalf of Archaeological Survey of India, Bangalore Circle, and the Heritage Society Karnataka Circle, requesting our respected chairperson, C.V. Patil sir, can for the concluding remarks, chairperson remarks. Welcome, sir.
Dear friends, it was indeed a very good illustrated presentation by Dr. Manoj. After a long time, we are hearing the temple components in the Sanskrit terminology. After a long time, we are hearing this, for which I have to compliment Dr. Manoj. He began his presentations, which is the evaluation of the temple components in the light of the Vastu texts. So he first gave an introduction about the Maya Mata and various other texts. And then he went on explaining in detail the temple and its parts, its components in the light of these texts, citing the Sanskrit terminology. For that, I have to compliment on my own behalf and on all the viewers and listeners and the art historians as well as the organizers. Second thing, which I would like to say within his given time, he has presented the various parts right from the Jagati to the Stupi and its all components. One thing which I find he could have just included a few slides of some sculptures. Only he has shown the Ganga and Jamuna and some doorway. To my mind, when I see the Ganga sculpture, it reminds the Ganga dynasty was in buffer zone. Sometimes they ruled independently. Sometimes they were the vassals of their neighbors like Chalukyas, Molambas, or Pallavas, or Cholas. So naturally, we see some of the art elements in those components. To begin with my observations, there are 5 beautiful Saptamatrika images removed from this Begur temple complex. Now they are preserved in the Bangalore Museum. These sculptures have some Pallava traits, especially the crowns of Vaishnavi and Maheshwari. They resemble and they have the elements of some Pallava traits. And the second group of the sculptures which are presently in the in Begur itself are a group of hero stones. And there are varieties of hero stones. And these, together with one of the most important hero stone, which is now in the Bangalore Museum, is the Nagattara's hero stone. It is perhaps the biggest hero stone that I have come across. It gives a wonderful pitched battle scene. You can see the elephant throwing the ferocious elephant is throwing the body, the soldiers. The wounded soldiers are being carried on the stretcher. And then there are Dakini and others which are being sucking the bloods. There is a dog which is licking the blood. So this particular hero stone is to be preserved. I do not know how to show a slide. Otherwise, I would have shown that slide here. If Manoj is having, he may show it. And these are the few. And you can see them, all of them are made in granite. It is very difficult to carve the minute yet the artist has taken. And they are stretched to the size of the stone. Sometimes you see the anatomical features, they are abruptly ending without being proportions. So this is one of my observations. Second, the various components, what we see, it shows that it is not a group of one artist. There must have been several artists. So anyway, these are my personal observations because I have seen those sculptures very closely. I have written about them. And the history of Begur, the research or the historicity of the Begur begins when Henry Dickens was asked to document. Since then, say for about more than 150 years, Begur has been attracting the scholars, epigraphists, art historians, temple architecture. And one thing I would like to say about these temples is Dr. I.K. Sharma, who has studied the Ganga temples on behalf of the Archaeological Survey of India. In the architectural survey, he has divided the temples into the 3 groups, early, middle, and late. So he classifies the art and architecture, the early phase from 350 to 650 CE, the middle age from 650 to 853 CE, and the late phase 853 to 1004 CE. In this time span, these temples stand, and otherwise the whole Begur is now a part, as Mr. Manoj said, once a small suburb, small village, now it has become a very important suburb of the Bangalore, attracting the archaeologists, historians, eminents. There are Jaina remains too. There is an Anglo-Indian church built of the pre-colonial area. So with this information, what I have added, otherwise nothing, but Manoj's presentation was excellent. And he has actually taken back to the traditional style of studying the temple architecture, with quoting the Sanskrit verses and Sanskrit terminology. So I congratulate once again Manoj, on behalf of myself and the Heritage Society Patna and the Bangalore Circle Heritage Society. Second part, I am coming to that. I would like to congratulate and compliment Dr. Dwivedi and his team. They are trying to join Ganga Kaveri. Ganga Kaveri was once a very big dream of late our Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. I'm sure had he been there, the Ganga Kaveri would have joined. Nothing to worry. That lead is now taken by the Heritage Society Patna, which is right on the Ganga, and it has traveled all the way from Gangas and meandering through the various stages to Bangalore. That is Kaveri. So, in this light, I'd say I once again congratulate the Dwivedi for taking the outreach archaeology. This is one of the most essential part which we are lacking. We are only writing to the journals, we are writing the textbooks published, but common man is deprived of certain elements which one has to do because it develops the sense of pride about their belongings. They feel that, oh, this is our culture. We must appreciate, we must care them, we must do. In a way, this will also enlighten the local fellows and it will also kindle the responsibility and feeling about the prized heritage among the younger generation. So in this way, this Heritage Society, the Heritage Society of Patna and Bangalore Circle and the Karnataka Circle and the ASI are taking a lead. I wish it should continue for a long, long time. One side bringing the Karnataka heritage weaving to the other side. I would also request sometime the Ganga architecture being introduced into the Kaveri Delta by some sort of lectures and temples or sculptures. Why not the Didar Ganji Yakshi, which is housed in the Patna Museum, should be shown to the people of Karnataka? Why not the Vaisala sculptures or other things? So it should be a reciprocal, making one week the BR heritage to Karnataka and one side Karnataka heritage to this. So I compliment the organizers, the speaker, and the presentations, and Sujeet Nayan in particular, who had just called me in the morning, sir. This has to say, I cannot say because he is my good friend, and moreover, this is a genuine reason that you are bringing the knowledge system of the heritage to our common man. So I thank you one and all. I wish this series goes on well. Thank you one and all. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful feedback. Now I request Dr. Dwivedi to propose the vote of thanks. Please.
ओम एहि सूर्य सहस्त्रांशो तेजो राशि जगतपत्य अनुकंपये मां भक्त्या गृहानार्घय दिवाकर. ओम सूर्याय नमः. ओम आदित्याय नमः. Respected panelists and all the participants joining us both in person and through the online platform, as we come to the close of this enriching and thought-provoking lecture on Begur temples and their scriptural bearings, it is my privilege and honor to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of the Archaeological Survey of India, Bangalore Circle, and Heritage Society Karnataka Circle. We believe that it is essential for all Indians and people around the world to learn about the rich heritage of Karnataka. Therefore, the Archaeological Survey of India, Bangalore Circle, and Heritage Society Karnataka Circle have jointly launched a series of lectures to celebrate the splendid heritage of Karnataka. This lecture gains a special significance as a part of the National Unity Day, commemorating the 150th birth anniversary of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the Iron Man of India. At the outset, we express our deepest sense of gratitude to our distinguished speaker, Dr. Manoj Gundanna ji, is an archaeologist by profession and resource person of the academic institutions. Dr. Gundanna's lecture was deeply insightful in its articulations of the interconnections between archaeology, architectural heritage, and sculptural heritage of Begur temples. We are truly grateful and wisdom with the 2 days lecture, sir. We extend our sincere thanks to our respected CB Patil, sir, my guru, for chairing this episode second of the historic lecture series organized to highlight the uniqueness of Karnataka heritage. Your address has proven extremely useful for all the participants, researchers, and academicians, sir. We are confident that we will come continue to receive your blessings in future events as well, sir. Our session thanks to Dr. Sujeet Nayan, sir, Superintending Archaeologist, Archaeological Survey of India, Bagalore Circle, for inspiring guidance to execute this lecture series. His leadership and continued commitment towards heritage conservation and public outreach remain a source of inspiration for the scholars and the professionals. We are equally thankful to Dr. Azad Hind Gulshan Nanda ji and Dr. V. Raghavan Sahab, Venuraj and the esteemed participants and the other distinguished officers of the Archaeological Survey of India Bangalore Circle and Heritage Society-Karnataka Circle for making this program meaningful and memorable. With the permission of Chairperson, respected Patil sir, closing the 2 days session and will join soon with another set of distinguished speakers in the coming episodes. Once again, thank you very much to all of you. Namaste, namaste.